You guys knew it had to happen. We're back with more Farthest Frontier. Hey there folks, my name is Pravus and welcome to the channel. A few weeks ago, Farthest Frontier, one of the most promising medieval survival city builders on the market today, entered into its full release. And along with that milestone came some hefty updates for the game, including a total rework of technology and progression, the addition of policies, monuments, much requested bridges, a lot of good stuff. So we're going to be starting up a new settlement today so we can check out all of these new features, but because this is not the first time we have played Farthest Frontier on the channel, we're going to be ramping things up a notch to really push ourselves and make sure we are challenged, and that of course means we have to play on Vanquisher difficulty. We'll have less starting resources, less animals to hunt, predators and raiders are going to be far more aggressive, and disease is a constant threat. But to make things even worse, I'm also going to be choosing the most hostile terrain that I can find, and that is going to be the arid highlands. Now, this actually is a little bit of a trade-off map. There are some good aspects to it. Mainly it has a lot of mineral wealth. Finding things like coal, iron, gold, sand is going to be very easy for us. So if we can get ourselves up to a trading economy, we're going to be looking pretty strong. But getting to that point is going to be the real challenge, because food, water, clay, those are all things that will be so scarce, we'll be struggling for survival every single day. In fact, I expect this to be an exercise in absolute pain, but okay. Now, by the way, if you're curious, you can't change up the advanced settings anymore. It already is going to be set to Vanquisher mode for everything here, so that is going to be the same. This really is, as far as we can tell, the extreme difficulty mode for the game. As far as naming our town, I'm just going to go ahead and call it Dryton, just to really get across the point that we are going to have parched throats this entire time. And here we go. Now, when you first start any game of Farthest Frontier, do yourself a favor and spend a little time getting the lay of the land. Find a really good spot for your town center, because there are a few key resources you really want to have access to, and the closer you are to those, the greater your odds of long-term success. Key resources you need are obviously going to be things like food and water, both of which are hard to find on this map. Water in particular is a problem, because there are not likely to be any lakes. It's not impossible, it's just not very likely. So you'll have to rely on wells with a simple water table. Let's go ahead and hit the I key to start looking for the water overlay. There's a surprising amount of water on this map already. Okay, normally you're going to find little patches that look kind of more like this, or this over here, for example, and make do. If you can find a greater source, though, with, like, in this case, 70-something%, that's a pretty good sign. I'm not sure if it's because the trees are helping to keep a lot of the moisture retained in the ground, but that is solid for you. So we want to build something close to this and place down a few wells. Also hit the F key to see long-term farming options with the fertility overlay. So this over here is a pretty good spot for some farming. Some area down over here as well. Yeah, that's not bad. Over here, pretty decent. Okay. Up over here, pretty good as well. Yeah, we got a few options when it comes to farming. So I want to place down on a water table close to farming, but not on the farming. So like right here actually isn't that bad. If we were to place down in this area, that would be close enough to some other farming areas I'd feel happy with this. Okay. Other things you're going to be looking for, though, are going to include some starting resources like sand and clay, but clay is very rare on this map, so you're probably not going to find it. Instead, there's just going to be a lot of sand around. Also look for any easy-to-find food, like, let's say, these eggs over here. Finding some deer can be useful, too. Hit the F3 key a couple of times to find some health bars like this. That makes it easier to find them, and also to keep an eye out for things like predators. Since there is a wolf den over here, I want to stay far away from these. And there's other considerations as well, but to be honest, on this map, I don't think we're going to be lucky. I do see a salvage spot over here. This actually could be game-changing for us very early on. I think I've convinced myself that I'm going to settle in this general area over here. It's close to deer, it's close to food, it's got some water, it's close to where I'll have farms. Solid enough. So let's settle down, but make sure you don't place yourself on some giant rocks, or it's really going to slow down your ability to make the town hall. And bada boom. All right, all of the colonists are going to start chopping down the trees, clear some space, and we'll be good to go. Now, I am currently not playing with any mods in this game. I likely will install a speed mod later on if I can find one. I saw one that seemed kind of ridiculous, like 25 and 50 times speed. That's just, I don't know why anyone would want that. So if I can find something more reasonable, like a 5 and 10 times speed mod, I'll do that. Maybe I can create one myself. We will see. Otherwise, this is going to be a very vanilla experience. Now, I'm not going to harvest anything until my workers have chopped down all of the necessary trees. Otherwise, they'll get distracted doing all sorts of other tasks, and we're not going to have the town center as quickly as I would like. Okay, and here we go. The town center is getting built up. Boom. Okay. Now, my goal in this first episode is actually fairly straightforward, but getting there is going to be tough. My goal is to upgrade my town center from Tier 1 to Tier 2, because Tier 2 is when I can start unlocking a lot of very useful buildings to start ramping up my economy. Getting to this point means we need a few things. I need to build up 8 houses, which we can do. I need to build up a market, which I'll do anyway, because I want to make sure I get some extra satisfaction and also start generating some gold. We need 30 population. I only start with 10, so this is going to take a little bit of time. And we also need some wood planks and some stone. Let's start by harvesting all nearby resources over here. Let's also go to the building menu, and I think getting some food production buildings would be wise. A hunter's cabin is not a bad plan. Can place that close to where we know there are some deer, like over here. It's only 5 deer, but I mean, that's reasonable. I know I don't want to move in this direction because we already know there are wolves. I think there were more deer up like over here or something, but for now, this is fine. So place that down over there. Wouldn't be a bad idea to get a forager's shack as well, as I do see a decent source of eggs from some birds' nests. That will get me some early game food. I'm going to clear out all nearby resources over here, get rid of all these trees, start working on some of the stone. These are all things I know I'm going to have to get rid of eventually anyway, at least to make room for a bit of early game housing. All right, so this is now taken care of. Good. I want to make sure we have somebody assigned over there, which we do. And we're just going to change their work area to be like this, so we make sure that the deer are always in immediate range. Let's also get ourselves a well fairly early on. Actually, you know what? Better yet, let's just go ahead and plan out where my housing is going to go, and then our well can be around that. I think we'll do 4 houses kind of in this general area. Total of 8 houses would be good. Yeah, I'm going to pause a few of these to make sure we're not wasting a lot of time on some of them. We're going to be losing out on a bit of iron ore over here, but to be honest, iron ore is not a big deal, and this is a very small deposit, so who cares? Let's also make sure we get ourselves a well. This right along here. We'll place this close to some housing in the town center. I need everyone to be able to access it super easily. Trying to find the best water value I can get. It seems like about 70% is close to the max, maybe 72. So right here at 70 is fine. That's going to be a top priority as we gather up some stone, just so nobody gets dysentery and dies too quickly. I also really need to get myself a firewood splitter pretty early on so we can start building up that firewood before winter becomes an issue. So temporarily, I could just place this close to the town center as well. Let's also think through some storage opportunities. We will need to have a stockyard for basic building materials. Not likely to stay there long term, but that's fine. And nothing else matters for a moment. So let's just go ahead and rush through at maximum speed. Woo! 3 times speed is, yeah, it's practically warp speed, man. You can barely see what's going on. It's all a blur! I'm joking. This game, like many other city builders, runs into the mistake of being, I think, just a little bit on the slow side. That's why mods are a great thing. Now, I haven't forgotten about things like this little salvage site over here. This will be great. I'm not going to worry about it this exact second. It probably doesn't have the starting materials I care about. One thing I am looking forward to at some point is exploiting this region up over here. Almost 7,000 gold ore and a whole load of coal. Could be nice. 13,000 sand, a few thousand more gold over there. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of mineral wealth. If I can just get to the point where I can start selling resources to the wandering trader, that's going to be where we start buying all the stuff I know I need. Look at all these people complaining they don't have access to water. Yeah, I know. If you guys would actually do what I tell you to and start getting the stone, that would probably solve the problem so we can get a well. Oh, we've already got ourselves a drought. Good thing I'm not growing any crops, because that's just slightly insulting. Anyway, well should be built. Good, all right. So your dehydration issue is about to go away. So is the housing shortage. And firewood should be coming online in just a little bit. Okay, we've already got one person assigned there. Might need to have a second one for now. Let's keep it on just the one while I keep clearing out all of this area. Also, let's plan on some better storage options. So now that the stockyard is built, we can build up a proper storehouse. And if you're going to do this, you want to keep it really close to your town center, because this ends up being a pretty common target for raiders when they do come by. I also wouldn't mind having a root cellar somewhere over here, somewhere close to where I'm actually gathering up all of the food, mainly because it does tend to increase the lifetime of your food. It doesn't rot quite as quickly. So the storehouse will be for all non-perishable goods. The root cellar will just be for that. Now, more people want to join our settlement. How exciting. We need to have some food, and we need to have 6 houses. Well, I would love to have food. Food is currently a bit of a problem, though. Really wish we had a second source of deer nearby. That would make my life easier. As the seasons are changing, keep an eye on things like your forager shack. Make sure you are rotating around to take advantage of other food. For example, hazelnuts are now coming into ripeness, so we want to make sure we gather all of that up. Also, I don't mind hitting up the salvage site about now just to see if there's anything useful there. Probably not any food, but maybe there'd be some building materials or something that would save me a lot of time. Storehouse is done. Good. Disable all food. And there's the root cellar. Okay. Do we think it would be wise to get a second gatherer's hut just so we can grab what we can before it's too late? Probably another forger shack. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and place one down. Of course, we're a little low on logs, so I don't know, man. That's taking up a lot that I don't really have to work with. But we have generated some knowledge. Now, this is a whole new feature in Farthest Frontier. We are going to be able to take advantage of a new tech tree system, which I think looks pretty darn fun. It is generally broken up into a few different sections, though. You've got agriculture, you've got trade or taxation, you've got culture, you've got military, and you have industry. Some of these are pretty darn good, boosting up the mine speed for things like your stone or producing various different goods like firewood a lot faster, gather up more from foraging sources, etc. But the one that we really care about right now is going to be natural philosophy, boosting up my base knowledge generation. The earlier you pick this up, the faster you generate more knowledge points for the rest of the game. A second close contender, though, is going to be taxation. This would give you some taxes per home within the range of a market. And that's good because we're going to need that gold in order to build up some defensive towers and survive once the raiders arrive. But until I'm in a position to build a market, I don't see a point. So I feel like it's going to be a lot better just to have the knowledge points. Impending blizzard and a drought. Really? Oh, really though? Really? Blizzard already? It's not even winter yet, man! Well, that's gonna be a huge freaking problem. We might need to assign a second person working at the firewood splitter for the moment. I don't have a ton of logs to work with, but every little bit helps right now. And is all the forageable food gone? Not quite yet, though most of it is. There will be a lot of micromanagement in this early section of the game. A lot of micromanagement. Okay, salvage goods. What do we find? A few things. Okay. A tome of knowledge, which immediately triggers a new discovery. Cool. All right, freebies. I'll take it. Some arrows, meh. Stone, meh. Crude weapons. All right, tools. Yeah, that's useful. Some bricks, some linen clothes, a little bit of beans, some pottery, and perhaps most importantly, we found some gold ingots. That is enough to build at least one defensive tower, and actually two, but they do have a maintenance cost, so I'll just say one for the moment. That saves me a lot of pressure, though. That's pretty great. Some knowledge has been generated. Again, I'd like to go for taxation, but probably not super important yet. We could boost up the armor and damage for villagers so they can survive against predators in the winter. We could get more of a view distance. Blah, 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 blah. Tree felling speed is tempting. Yeah. I'm going to go for the extra resources from foraging sources just to start because I'm very concerned about having enough food. So every little bit extra we can get from, let's say, some of these hawthorn bushes, that could help a little tiny bit. Just to get started, though, markets will be important later on. Now, another thing that would be very useful is to get myself a smokehouse. Smokehouse would take any of the meat we get from hunting and give it a little bit extra shelf life. Right now, we do actually have about 4 months of food thanks to some of the stuff that we found. This will be very, very useful at some point. It does cause a bit of pollution, so we got to be careful with it. But, I mean, for the moment, I think it's kind of important we keep it close to our root cellar so we don't have a lot of travel time. We'll move things around and get more efficient later, for sure. I am sad to say that we already hunted our deer into extinction over there. That's where having 2 sources of deer is really nice. Sometimes they have a chance to replenish. And since there is a blizzard going on, I think everyone is going to be retreating into their homes. If I could just build some more homes, we actually would get more people to join the settlement, which is nice. And there we go. All right, I think the blizzard is done. Everyone gets back to work. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm already feeling a little bit of the strain here. One thing that surprised me, though, is we have not yet seen any evidence of wolves or other predators. They have a very, very long range at Vanquisher difficulty. And during the winter, it's not unusual for wolves to start approaching about now. We actually had a villager born. Hey, what do you know? Maybe because we finished off all the deer, there's not a lot of incentive for them to check this area out. I don't know. But one wolf can easily kill some of your people. In fact, you're going to have to dogpile them with a lot of folks. This is another reason why having a hunter cabin is really important, because somebody with a bow and arrow has a chance at actually killing the wolf before it starts picking off all of your villagers. Increased raider activity now that we are beginning with year 2. Hostile bands have been spotted roaming the outskirts of your land. It's usually around like year 3 that they are going to attack you, so we need to be ready about then. But now that spring has returned, we can start forging up some more materials. Go back to all those birds' nests, guys. Get me lots of eggs. Now, if we want to be really bold, one thing we could do very early is start planning out some of those farms we had been talking about. I'm not sure I feel bold enough to do that quite yet, but what we could do is basically just start planting down large fields of clover and start building up fertility, because even though the fertility of this region does suck, eventually it will get to a somewhat reasonable level. One problem you'll run into is a lot of your crops do want to be grown in a nice balanced soil of sand and clay. And since almost everything out here is sandy, that doesn't work out so well. It's one of the reasons you really want to have clay, so you can start balancing out that soil. But without that, either way, we can build up fertility. So, like, if I wanted to build a whole bunch of farms over here, I mean, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Normally, what I would do is build out some 5x5 fields and just have one farmer each to start maintaining that farm. So something kind of like this in this little grid pattern. That said, none of this is very important to work on right now. I think we just need to wait until we get a few more people, and then we can start this process. It'll be a long investment, a very long investment. But legitimately, the sooner I can get long-term food figured out, the better, because we are gonna suffer. Predators are attacking. Okay, we have got a wolf. We need to deal with that immediately. Now, wolves are scary because it absolutely can kill my guy. I'm amazed he tanked that without taking more damage, though. I've watched people get mauled down in like 3 hits. This guy actually held it together. Highly impressed with you, sir. Highly. Let's start planning out where I'm going to have a saw pit as well. So food, or at least early game, is going to be over here. We don't want to place this anywhere near all of our housing. So what's going to end up being a good industrial area for us? Probably over in this direction would be my guess. It's at least getting kind of far away from water and where I might place down farms in the future. So yeah, I think this ends up being a mostly residential-ish area. And then this ends up being a farming area, probably another one down over here, which leaves this for industry. Okay. And one of the big reasons I want to have this built up pretty quickly is because that is a prerequisite to being able to build up a Fletcher. A Fletcher will be able to start producing bows and arrows, things that we are going to need to deal with any predators and also some early defense. Finally, by the way, some immigrants want to join. Okay, 7 people. I'll take them. We have enough housing to go around. That's just more people I can toss into jobs. And the game's now telling me, hey, you should also get yourself a market. I agree. I do think that getting a market would be wise, but that's another thing I need to have, is that saw pit. And while people are working on all of that, I'm going to take my hunter and just start exploring the edge of my space a little bit, just looking for any additional deer sources that maybe I have forgotten about. It's not very likely, but if there's anyone who's in a position to go... Whoa! Turn around! If there's anyone who's in a position to try and find some deer, it's the guy with the bow and arrow. Okay, raiders, huh? That's a lot of them, too. That's going to be real fun to deal with. Real fun. You can set exploration orders, and your regular workers will just do this periodically, but again, you can't control who it's going to be, so I'd rather control it a little bit more like an RTS and have a better idea what I'm doing. This guy could fight some wolves, but not a whole den. I see deer. There we go. That's the sort of thing I needed to see. Oh, but there are also some boars nearby. And wolves. Okay, that actually could become a very big problem. If I had a lot more hunters or bows and stuff, I might actually consider trying to find a way to take out those wolves. That'd be a bit tough, though, as things are. Yeah, I need to pull this guy back. Here come wolves right now. Okay, can one guy take out this wolf? I mean, it's pushing it, but I think maybe there's a good chance he can do it. Okay, taking out that wolf is good. So this tells me that I definitely can't reach any of this deer. I was trying really hard to get up to this deer safely, but no, not as things stand. I cannot do that. So I will have to ultimately micromanage my hunting until I can get enough deer to survive, but also until I can get enough people together to go and get some wolves. Ugh. Well, I mean, if I did get myself another hunter's cabin, this may feel like a bit of overkill, but if I did, a second hunter might be able to take this down. Maybe. It's just really important I open up some of these food sources, you know? I do have some knowledge points available now, by the way. Do you want to go ahead and pick up taxation now? Probably, yeah. Sooner I can get this going, the better. I'm working on getting a market built up now, so that means I will get a small passive amount of gold coming in. It's not a lot, but it also doesn't need to be a lot. Can 2 hunters by any chance deal with some of these wolves?
As you wish.
I'm not really worried about the boars. I think the boars will mostly leave us alone, and your hunters never attack a boar on their own. That one has to be micromanaged, otherwise they'll leave it alone. So maybe both of you can take out this wolf while he's separated from the rest of the pack. There we go, there we go. Get him. Yeah, okay, and then get with this one as well. Come on, kill him off, kill him off, kill him off. Good, okay, and then can we kill the wolf den? Now, this is something I don't remember. If I attack this, does it spawn a bunch of wolves? Does not appear to, so I definitely want to clear this out while we can. Got it. Okay, and now we are clear to do whatever we need to do. That's huge. That's actually huge. More wolves down here. Gotta be aware of that. Predators are attacking where? Oh, huh? Wait, why would this boar be attacking? Game! Okay, it literally says in the tooltip, like as you load up the game, your people will not attack boars unless told to do so. Or maybe in numbers. Maybe if there's 2 around, they'll do it. But they won't do it alone. That actually could be. Now, I don't think raiders are going to hit me for at least a little bit. We should think about where we want to place down some lookout towers, though, because this is obviously very helpful. Now, if we had settled ourselves up on a hill, this would be phenomenal for us, because these towers get a lot of extra damage if they are up high. The fact that I placed down pretty low is not great, but, I mean, it's just kind of what we went with. Still, it is a very, very good argument for why building on hills are important. Just wanted to show you how that works and why it's a thing. Another knowledge point generated. We could just double up on the taxes, I suppose. Yeah, sure. Let's just go ahead and commit to that. I think that's going to be important. Just waiting on planks to be produced. Once that's done, we can get this built. Now, one thing that makes me sad about this map is the fact that there is no lake. Not only for the water, but fish would have been a very, very good source of some food. Smoke that up in the smokehouse. It can last you a long time. Also, reeds. If we could have found like some little reeds and turned those into baskets to increase the carrying capacity of all of our people, that's a huge advantage. The fact that we're not going to get that on this map is actually atrocious. Smokehouse is built, by the way, so we can start working on all that smoked meat just to make it last longer. Year 3 has begun. That's about the time where I feel like I kind of need to turn on the lookout tower, so let's start working on that next. I have the Fletcher, so we're producing some bows and some arrows. That'll be helpful. There's the market as well. Okay, so now we are passively generating a small amount of gold. It's not a lot, but it's something. With this extra knowledge points, what do we want to do next? Good question. I feel like the extra damage for villagers may not be a bad choice. Not only to deal with predators as they come through, but also since we're anticipating raiders sometime this year, a little bit of extra damage and survivability would be great. I need to protect my population. They are my key resource. Without enough workers, everything falls apart. And somehow already got another knowledge point. Okay. In that case, let's make it faster to fell trees. That has felt like a very slow process so far, and I'm constantly running out of logs. And I actually really do like this tech tree in general. I think it's a pretty good progression system for the game. It does slow down the early game a lot more, I think. In my experience so far from the playtesting I've been done, it feels like a slower early game than I used to have in my previous series, but it doesn't feel bad. It feels like a fine thing, you know? You're not unlocking too much stuff too quickly. You have to pick and choose what's really going to be your priority based on your anticipated needs. Case in point, maybe it'd be wise for me to just go ahead and pick up things like spotters pretty soon and then move up to marksman training so that I will be able to boost up the attack rate of my towers in my town center and have that early game defense. Maybe. The deer do respawn, by the way, down over here, if you didn't know. Remember how I said I cleared out this area? It takes a little bit of time, but eventually the deer do reappear, so don't worry about the fact that, hey, you hunted them into extinction, quote-unquote, and you have to go find more places. Like, have 3 places for 2 hunters to kind of bounce around between, and that should last you for a while, because they'll come back by the time you finish clearing out another. And how many laborers do I currently have to work with? 15. This makes me feel like maybe clearing out the rest of these rocks and just getting the farming process started will be good. The sooner we do this, the sooner it pays off dividends, right? I mean, it feels like a greedy play, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong one. What else do I need, though? Let's go back to our resources and see what else we could do. Basket shop is not useful to me. Fletcher, we've got. Cobbler, maybe. Yeah, make the shoes. That could be useful. And then, of course, tannery would be good for protection. Yeah, I do think I want all of that. Of course, we need to keep that far away from all the other people who are living in that area, so keep it in the industrial zone. I think for now we'll just get a simple cobbler. This is one of those industrial buildings that doesn't reduce desirability, so it's always good to have kind of a transition zone of just those kinds of low-impact buildings, and then you can have your high-polluting buildings a little bit further away. At least that's the way I play the game, and I have to say it's worked pretty well for me so far. I am one population away, by the way, from being able to get things like a tier 2 town center, which was kind of the entire purpose of this video. So I need to get a little bit more immigration and or a birth, and then I need to have a lot more planks. Plank production, it's been a little on the slow side. I'm sort of disappointed with how slow it's been. But I don't know, it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. What can you do? Let's go ahead and enable this farm, which is pulling pretty much every laborer I've got over here. Good lord. That's fine, though. Clear out the fields, dang it. I mean, really, when you think about how many people have to be working on this, you get a sense of why agriculture is a huge issue in this game. Like, it's a massive undertaking, but it also makes sense for kind of medieval feudal societies. Like, that was a very big deal. All right, so the way that crops work, it's been a while since I've messed with this, so I will have to do a little bit more research once again and figure out exactly what the best setup is. To start, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and just try to clear out some of the rocks and such in the way. Get rid of the rocks, get rid of the weeds, make it a more useful, fertile area, and then plant down just some clover like this. And that's going to start building up some fertility. We're not going to get any value out of this for a while. When we do, though, things like beans are generally going to be a pretty good option for us. They're not super dependent on fertility. They're fairly tolerant to heat. So I feel like beans are going to be an easy pickup for us. And then eventually, buckwheat could be a good option for us as well. This will have to get unlocked through tech. But this will be a way of feeding livestock once the time comes to pick those up. So yeah, I don't know. I think that generally speaking, all we're going to be doing is clovering and beansing until we win. That's kind of it. 2 new villagers have immigrated. Perfect. That means we have now officially hit our 30 threshold. If I can just get myself another 16 or so planks, we can get the upgrade to tier 2. No sign of raiders yet, by the way. That doesn't mean that they're not coming. Just means that at the moment, they're leaving me be. And that's fine. It's just one of those things where I'd rather be ready, and then it turns out I don't need it, rather than turns out, hey, here they come, and oh, they got you with your pants down. Game over. Try again. While we've been on the topic of crops, by the way, notice this is what I was talking about with the soil mixture. And depending on what you grow, different plants like more sand or like more clay, but in this case, we are way too far on one side. So yeah, if we can find ourselves a clay deposit, I would happily start mixing it into the soil. Odds are, though, we're not going to be able to touch that until we get a trader coming by. And then we'll have to pay out the wazoo to get ourselves loads of clay. Am I excited about that? Absolutely not. Hey, let's go ahead and upgrade that town hall. Predators are attacking where? Oh, it's just the boar again. Not really scared of the boar, but again, you're not supposed to attack them on your own. I'm really confused on this. It's possible I'm dumb. It is possible. I also wonder, can I just turn off, like, boars? Is that an option? No? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I do not want people to get themselves killed fighting boars. Boars are notoriously aggressive little boogers. They can get a lot of people killed. Super duper easy. Boars were murderous in the medieval era. To a degree, they still are. One of the most unspoken crises in the American South is actually the wild pig problem. There are so many wild hogs roaming around the South, around Texas and Mexican border area. It's actually insane how many there are, and they're destroying loads of agriculture. They're just breeding like crazy. There's actually like huge hunting programs to go get rid of them. Anyway, point is to say, never underestimate a freaking pig. All right, those things are nasty. Anyway, that is tier 2 reached. Getting to tier 3 will be a lot harder. 200 population, a trading post built, school built, homesteads, which have to be upgraded houses with various different, amenities and stuff like that. A load of clay, which I can't get, and gold ingots. So yeah, this was the easy part. All right, surviving the first couple of years, getting to tier 2, that was just fine and dandy. But from here on out, it's gonna be awful. So now that we are at tier 2, what other options do we have that's gonna change our lives? Well, the trading post is a big one. I don't have anything to sell or to buy yet, so maybe this isn't as critical this exact second, but once we can get this up and running, that's gonna be our lifeline. The school would be nice in order to start getting educated pops so that they can work more efficiently, but we need more gold for that. Temple is fun, very expensive. Wagons would certainly end up being useful. The vault, once we have iron to store up all of our gold. Arborists. Now, this, if I had some clay, actually might be a good way of getting myself some extra food. I feel like maybe fruit trees are a little bit less water and fertility dependent than regular crops are. Might be remembering that incorrectly. If so, this could be a good way of getting some sustainable food. Apiary will certainly be useful at some point. You can see why I like placing this in the middle of this field, because it does get almost everything. If I had clay, a potter would be good. A weaver if I had a lot of flax, which I don't. Candles, once you have apiaries, sure. Soap. I'm not going to be able to get any herbs, so that's not helpful. Charcoal for fuel? Yeah, better than having firewood, I suppose. How far down this do I need to get to make, like, glass and stuff? Because glass is something I'll be able to make a lot of. There it is, Glassmaker's Tier 3. Boo! Okay. Because that's what I can turn my sand into. We can become a glassworks town and have an absolute ton of that flowing out. And that would be a good moneymaker for us with so much sand sitting around. But we're not going to get to that point at any time soon. I'm just kind of thinking a little bit further to the future. The gold ore would be nice. If I had a way of actually turning this into anything right now, I could get a lot of money from gold. Yeah, I think for now, we just have to accept that we are going to be a subsistence economy here. We're going to micromanage pretty much everything the way we would normally. It's just going to be harder than usual. And then as soon as I see an opportunity to become a capitalistic trade-based economy, I will 100% take that. And year 4 is officially starting now as well. Okay. We'll get ourselves the tannery, and at some point soon I also need a compost yard. We can place this kind of up toward the farms, I guess. Main reason being, if we do not have a way of collecting all of the human waste out of some of these places, and pretty soon, people are going to start getting very sick. And at this difficulty, if people start spreading around various different diseases, we are going to be sunk. And one more knowledge point generated, and now that we're at Tier 2, we have access to a few new things. Animal husbandry, yeah, is nice. Tree regrowth, blah, 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 blah. We could go for market can be upgraded to a market square. Probably don't have the resources for that. Paper mill, carrying capacity, healer's house. Actually not a bad thing. Not only to deal with the diseases, but if your people get attacked by predators and knocked down and are bleeding out, this is the only way to save them. Faster fill weight for wells, walls, defenses, foundries. Less work for planks. That actually is useful. Let's pick that up. Ugh, there's so much we need to do. But believe it or not, I think this actually is a decent place for us to end. This is a very, very solid start for a maximum difficulty run. I will say I think it's quite... Well, okay. Something bad No! Okay, the lightning storms are messing with me just a little bit. Hey! Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, God! I had to open my mouth and say this was a decent start, didn't I? Oh, God! Don't you dare let that market burn to the ground. Don't you freaking dare let that market burn to the ground, I swear to God. Oh, my gosh. Okay, everyone got a little singed. All right? All good? Okay, where was I? All right, this was a pretty decent start for some maximum difficulty. We're going to be fine. We've got a roadmap in front of us. Population's grown pretty nicely. It's a matter of just, like, continuing to not mess up for a while. And then, of course, let's remember, we are going to have those nasty raiders coming by fairly soon. But you know what? We'll be ready for them. Thank you all for watching this first episode of Farthest Frontier at maximum difficulty. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would ask that you hit that like button to show your support. Leave a comment, subscribe to that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.